The world we once knew has been lost to shadow. Was it sundered in fire and brimstone? Drowned in flood and rain? Was it tragic decadence? A great fall? Unspeakable corruption? Or did the awakening of magic destroy our world? No one knows for certain. Reach through the shadowy mists. Find a fragment of land infested with shadowy corruption, yet lit enough to find your way. Find a creature of light, a sylph. They are friendly and willing to guide you. Perhaps the two of you can find other survivors. Perhaps this land can serve as a shelter. Perhaps together you can build a sort of haven. Forge friendships to save the world.
Hello, and welcome. Is my mic muted? No, it's working. I swear it's working. It usually works now these days, hopefully. Hello and welcome to the Unleashed Games weekly playtest, where you join me, Irena, CEO of Unleashed Games, live as we playtest through our prototype of our mini micro MMO, our cooperative, family-friendly role-playing adventure game named Haven: Forge Friendships to Save the World. If it's your first time here, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out what we're up to every single Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific. We really appreciate anybody that comes to see what we're doing, and also, more importantly, give us feedback. And in fact, you can give us feedback, ask us questions live as we're playtesting. And we'll answer them right here on stream. Or if you have ideas or suggestions, all of the above, we welcome it, because Haven is a community-oriented game, and we want to develop this with our community, like as we build it, because that's actually really important to us. You see, we're experimenting with this idea of developing out in the open. Usually video game studios, we develop in like a black hole, and we don't really put our stuff out there when it's not finished because of hashtag reasons. And I think it's a lost opportunity to really build up a group of like super fans and community behind a title, and also make everybody feel like they've been a part of the whole process the entire time. Because these games don't come out like in 6 months. Some small indie titles do. But the true like AA, AAA games, those take years. And really, when we're developing in a vacuum, we could actually build something that's a dud. And quite honestly, the video game industry only has, like, this is an approximation, not an official figure, but only like a 20% hit rate. It's a hit-driven business. Why? Because we develop in a black hole. We don't run it by the audience ahead of time. Hollywood does this by, doing test screenings and things like that, and some surveying, but it's still even like a drop in the bucket for the type of feedback that we're capable of when we do these types of playtests. I know some other studios have also picked up this practice in their own sort of ways. I know Elsewhere from Paul Sawaya does this. Also, Greg Street and Fantastic Pixel Castle has picked up this game dev in the open type of philosophy. And we're 100% behind it because we've been doing this now for almost 2 years. So we also have some regulars that are here, and it's so good to see you, Tozeb. You are like so faithfully supportive of us, and we're so grateful to have you here every single week. And in fact, Tozeb, who you will see later, is one of our Patreon members. And so he gets access to our build and plays with us every single week. So if you're interested in joining us for our play test and, giving us your feedback live or getting to test our changes yourself, you can always join our Patreon, which I will put the link in chat. And you can support us because we are an unfunded studio. We are completely bootstrapped on, my personal dime at this point. We did raise some money. We built this prototype, but we believe so deeply in this game that many of us on the team, and there's about 12 of us right now, are building this, out of our love for the product. And in fact, we have some amazing changes that I cannot wait to share from the most incredible environmental artist, Becky Coker. She got in there and did some tweaks on our lighting. This is our big changelog item. I cannot wait for you to see the new lighting, and I do want your feedback. If you like it, if you don't, anything that you think about it, I would love to hear. So one of the other things that we do with our playtests is this. We bring on some of our dear friends from the game industry to come and check out what it is that we're building and to get their feedback, because they're also experts. And I don't like to develop in a vacuum. I don't know about you when you're like working on a project. Some people like to, just go into a hole and create something cool. Like, again, some game studios. But me, I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. What I love is to have active dialogue with really, really cool people and to get their thoughts. And so we've brought with us somebody that I've been dying to get on the stream. And she, in fact, was an inspiration for my having founded Unleashed Games, because she helped found an incredible company called Double Loop Games. And she showed that, women could start game companies too and get them funded. Now, it's really hard to do that, and we'll talk about that today. But it really is a great honor to welcome Shelby Moledina to the stream. Shelby, let me bring you on stage if I can find my mouse. There she is. Hi.
Hey, Irena.
Hey, how are you today, Shelby?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be here with you and see your game and chat with you.
Yeah, I'm dying and so happy to have you here. Have you seen anything about our game?
Not much. I mean, I've seen screenshots, but I haven't played it before. I'm really excited. So you'll have to forgive me being totally new to it.
That's actually the best case scenario, to be honest, because I want to, like, getting new user feedback is the most valuable. So I'm 100% here for this. But before we jump in, one of the things that I didn't get to, like, I didn't know you as you were fundraising and building Double Loop. And I know you and Emily were really hard at work building games. And so we didn't really get to interact then, but now, we've like gotten fairly close, like really quickly, which I'm so grateful for, because you're amazing.
Me too.
But could you tell me a little bit about your journey? Like, how did that all start?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long journey. I started in games over 20 years ago, but it started when I was 10, and I played King's Quest VI and The Secret of Monkey Island, and they were so beautiful. And I was like, there was no internet, and I was scouring the booklets, and Roberta Williams was the designer, and I was like, I don't know how to get there or what that is, but I know I want to do this. So that was like sort of, a long journey. So I started as a gameplay programmer. I got a computer science degree because I decided that was sort of the way in. But I'm definitely very like right and left brain. Like I do some art, but not enough to be professional artist, some writing, all of that. So I knew I wanted to bring that all together. And I started as a gameplay programmer, like level designer. And I kind of like naturally became a producer because I tend to organize the people around me, and just following that and my curiosity to learn all parts of the business top to bottom. I knew how to run a studio, and I did game direction and product, director of product, which is like product strategy and executive production, all those things. And I had this desire to maybe do my own thing after having worked at lots of big companies like Warner Brothers and Foundation 9 and DNA. But I still had this fear because I was like, well, I know everything about, I don't want to say I know everything, but I've experience with like a lot of the game business top to bottom on how we make games, how we budget games, how we pitch games, all of the things, how to manage teams. But I had no experience with fundraising. And that just seemed like this like black box mystery world to me. And it was sort of this amazing opportunity. My co-founder, Emily Greer, came and we had coffee, and she mentioned that she was thinking about starting a studio. She was looking for a co-founder. And at that point, I had like a 4-month-old baby, and I hadn't slept in like 4 months or something.
So you were delirious. And
I was a little delirious
because you didn't have any good judgment.
Totally. I was like, well, sort of. I was more like, it didn't even cross my mind that I was like, no, she needs like an experienced co-founder. And my husband was actually the one who's like, you should talk to her about that. And I was like, no. There's like definitely a lot of, I think it's a thing we commonly talk about, like a lot of imposter syndrome all along the way. We feel like we need to have done something like 100 times better to be qualified. But she and I talked, and we kind of did like co-founder dating through the summer. And I think one really important thing we did was we talked a lot. We tried to have as many of the hard conversations up front as we could about what we each brought to the table, what we each like to do, what we each don't like to do, but also just like, are our values aligned? And we came to, you can never like work all of it out until you're in like the real trenches, but we came to a really good like feeling that we were on the same page. And she had a lot of experience with fundraising. She had co-founded Congregate. She became the CEO. She took it through several, it was acquired, but also she acquired many studios. So when we co-founded Double Loop, going into it, she already had a lot of people who were like, whatever you're doing, Emily, I want to invest. I want to be there. I want to help. So we had a lot of amazing advisors. And then it was very hard work. We raised a seed round. We raised our Series A during the pandemic on Zoom, which we weren't sure if we could do it. And it was a lot of work. We had a pitch coach, which I sort of hate because I don't like being on script, but it like made us a lot better. And so we were able to raise $10.5 million. We grew our team to about 20, like full-time core team. And then we had contractor team members who we brought in as team members on our stand-ups every day. We never had outsourcers really that we like, kind of called them outsourcers and kept them to the side. So we built 2 games. The first one took us, about a year to get to public alpha. And I believe what you're saying, like we did a lot of playtesting. We tried to keep ourselves very honest at every gate along the way. Like, is this prototype good enough to move? And we had criteria. And something I see, which you were touching on, I've seen this a lot in my career, which is teams that build a game and they playtest it and they get some negative feedback, or they say they put it live and they get low D1 retention or whatever they're looking at. And it's really easy to fool yourself. And it's really easy to say, okay, I hear that, but they don't know, this feature will be in an alpha and that'll fix it. Or we'll put in a tutorial and it'll fix it. And depending on the category of thing, you can improve it, as you know. But there's also some things where I'm never going to say 100% of the time, but 99% of the games I've seen that are mobile, for example, mobile games, is like their first D1 retention doesn't really budge. Like it's kind of people want it or they don't. And so I very much believe in what you're talking about. On our second game, because we had the engines and tools, we built the second game, Ash Cove, in under 5 months because we had our tools, we had our team that had a lot of momentum together, and we were able to get it to like not just our own play tests, but live. And we did a lot of concept testing along the way, with surveys and things about like, do you want how do you feel about this concept? And we found this convergence of the type of game we were making and the theme of paranormal mystery. And that was a really strong intersection of interests. And we built from there and we tested. Our team is incredible. I feel like we had a lot of, the things I'm proud of are we fundraised, successfully in a very difficult environment. I grew so much as a co-founder. We had amazing investors that were extremely supportive. And later I'll talk about some of this work I've done talking about some toxicity in the fundraising process, but I will say that ours were incredibly supportive, especially Ed Freeze, David Gardner, Cherry Freeman. They all were extremely successful. I mean, supportive all along the way. But then also when we had to close Double Loop, we hit the fundraising freeze where no one was spending any money that they didn't have to. They weren't making new investments, no matter how good our metrics were, no matter how good the team was. We were able to get part of the team hired by Scopely, which was wonderful because at that point, our top concern was taking care of our team, people who trusted us and came to our company. And so, yeah, we had to close down, and that was heartbreaking. And the thing that has always been that I've been sad and proud of was the team that we built and the culture. And it was kind of peak amazing game dev period in my life. So that was a long answer to your question, but that was sort of our journey through that.
Thank you for taking us through that because, we've been going through the same fundraising desert, and I've maybe made the more stubborn and maybe it's a poor life choice. I don't think so, but at the same time, it's a difficult choice because every month as our expenses come due, I have to measure my own personal budget, whether or not I can continue supporting Unleashed and continue to try to fundraise for it. And sometimes I wonder, should I have made the call to shut it down? Or, I was leaning on the survive to 25 mantra that we had been, passing around with all of us founders. I see Eric Barnes here on LinkedIn, another one of my, our founder peers that has been struggling with the challenge of fundraising in this environment. It's how, what factors brought you to that place of we just can't do it anymore?
So I do want to say we weren't just we're about to run in. The thing is, it's definitely a marathon. You're fundraising all along the way. And we hustled the whole time, more than a year and a half in advance. We were looking at everything and thinking about options A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Do we try this team configuration? Do we pitch for these things? And so for more than a year ahead of time, we were fundraising for the game we were making, but we were also pitching big licenses and a big license actually gave us ability to use their license at a very reduced cost because we were a tiny indie. So we were also pitching publishing for that IP. We were pitching publishing for our game. We were looking at VCs. We were looking at something that in the past would have been solid would be to get a loan basically based on our metrics that it's now we're ready to grow the game. And we got so far in many of those conversations, but then, and it'd be going through all the gates. And then we would get at the period of time, it was it shifted where people thought they could fund it. And then they would say, I'm so sorry. We saw our executives do this and they're not funding anything anymore. And we don't want you to waste your time. So we continued with Emily and me, juggling. Yeah. Who are we talking to? Are we, checking every corner? And we did everything we could on cost optimization, how much we could personally put in. And one thing that was important to us was that we didn't run it up to the day where we said, sorry guys, no paycheck tomorrow. We kept the team appraised of the situation and we were hopeful, but then when a gate would be sort of past, okay, here's where we're at, we made the call, unfortunately right before Thanksgiving, and we told the team, and so they had over a month and we had already been in talks for some of the team to be hired. So we tried to be transparent with people. We were completely please do what's best for you. If you need to be interviewing and you need to do these things. And I was shocked at how engaged the entire team stayed. They didn't say oh, it's worrisome, I'm going to check out and it was everybody left everything on the table. And I think we all felt this is something special. And personally, I was working way too much, but I always felt, I was this is the last 4 months I have to do anything I can. I can't do it later. I have to do it now or not at all. And I worked myself down to just such a nub that as soon as the company was done, I got pneumonia for 3 months. And so, I mean, I just like, my body was like, nope. So,
Yeah.
and I'd say a year later, my sleep schedule is still messed up. The stress has like had physical effects. And so I think there's so many factors you have to balance, and you're obviously balancing that every month and that actually is I'm so sorry. I've been in a similar and had friends in a similar situation where you're worried and making existential decisions every single month. And that is just such a high level of stress. And I'm just really
A lot of
empathetic.
medication involved.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Yeah, you never get to like relax. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, you called out another founder. I think other founders in the game industry are the best support group, and kind of people, when you find your people who are going through it at the same time, you really like find these bonds, which are amazing, and kind of usually a lot of them will last for life.
Yeah. And, like you said, it's the team that keeps you going and keeps you fighting for it, especially when, there's this mix of, there's a lot of people in the game industry right now that are struggling to find work. That we've had so many layoffs, and the folks that have come onto our team to support are struggling with that, but we support each other in job searches, contract searches. We refer each other, and we've created our own little community, and continue to work on the game while I fundraise and try to make whatever it is that can happen. And we've had some actually incredibly positive traction this month. Actually, moving into 2025, we have active conversations that are progressing. I didn't do our typical kind of progress update, but we're talking to a publisher, which is going really well, and we're also talking to a couple of funds. And this time, I've moved away actually out of the games VC, because games VC is just a really tough nut to crack. And that's kind of the second topic that I wanted to touch on before we play Haven, which is a lot more fun than talking about survival mode. But the real challenge here is, as female founders, and like yourself in particular, you're a success story. You are somebody that we look up to and say, like, look, hey, it's possible. Like, I see you, I see myself in you, in the potential, and maybe actually making it the whole way. Like, tell us about this movement that you and Gina Joseph started on January 14th.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll back up a tiny bit to what led to that. But you guys might have, I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, you might have seen this 2% kind of online flash mob that Gina and I started January 14th. And I'll back up a little bit. I've been on sabbatical after my company closed and I got pneumonia and all that. I'd been doing film for fun along the way my whole life. Like, I did some acting, and then at some point I was acting, and I was like, I'm really annoyed that I'm not getting any, there aren't roles that I am excited about. All these like male directors who I love and are my mentors, but they're not writing the things I want to be making. So I was like, fine, I'll figure it out. I'll make my own films, which I'd like never, this is how I do things. I'm like, I'm just going to try YOLO. Like, I'm just going to try it. It's going to work, and that's worked for this. That's something I actually tell people a lot as career advice, is like, if there's something to be done, like, raise your hand and try to figure it out. Like, that's how I've been able to sort of move around and continue learning. So it's actually not a joke. Like, that's how I work and what I advise. So I started making films, and I had some stuff that people were excited about. I was working on, but I kind of found my groove where I was like, okay, I have all this game industry experience. There's not a lot of media out there showing. There's a lot of perspectives in game development that are not really shown in the stereotypical media about game dev that's out there, including myself as a female founder, much more like gender diverse and marginalized developers. It's just like the faces of who's making games is so different than what you see when you read or hear about game dev. So people were excited about that. But then I was working on that. It was kind of a slog. The series I was making about an indie game dev team, that one's still in development, but I kind of took a break. I took a sidestep into doing the Portland 48-hour film project, which I've done like 9 of these, and I love them. You get like a filmmaking weekend of 48 hours. They assign you your genre.
That's hard.
And it's amazing. It's like game dev. You're like, you never have all the choices. It's about being creative within like parameters, especially if you're working on IP stuff, which I love. So yeah, we got the genre and it worked out. It was like our genre was exactly what I hoped for, which was dark comedy. Our secondary genre that we could use was sports or game film. And I was like, of course, we're making a dark comedy about games. Thank you. So, so we made this film and we wrote it on Friday night until like 4 a.m. And it's called Resting Pitch Face. And something I was aware of was, and I am tying this back to 2% in a second. Something I was aware of is how low the proportion of funding is that goes to women compared to the number of highly qualified women founders that are seeking fundraising. It's not like 40% of funding goes to women and 40% of founders are women. It's nothing like that. So when I looked up the stats, it shocked me. It's 2.2 at that time for 2023. 2.2% of funding, VC funding in the US goes to women. And something like half of startups are founded by women. And I was just like, this is shocking. So I put it up front in the film, and the film was about that, but it's like a dark comedy, and it just goes through this woman, a female executive in games, and kind of dealing with like the mansplainingest mansplainer VC that exists in the world, and kind of crunched to like 20 years of experiences into one 7-minute film of like this guy, like, no, yeah, these things will happen.
Can we watch a little bit of it?
We can, and then yes, we'll watch it, and then I'll talk about how that like inspired Gina and I to kick off that movement.
That sounds amazing. So yeah, Shelby was actually super kind to us and said that we could actually show a clip of Resting Pitch Face. Oh my God, the best title for a short film. I can't even.
I mean, I will say one more thing before we show it is like that. Okay, I'm bad at naming things. That's the best name I have or ever will come up with. I was like, oh my God. So I posted, because this film isn't posted publicly online, so today's like a little bit of an exclusive little teaser.
Yes.
I posted the name and the poster and like what it was just and the stat. And that started this whole avalanche of the emotional response to like people want and need this. And that's what has sort of shifted my focus in this direction. So now we can show it.
All right. Let's jump in there. See if I can.
We're going to show about 3 minutes of it. Not the whole thing. Okay. This was my team for the 48-hour film project.
Skip ahead.
Yeah, right there. That's a good spot to start.
All right.
Hey, I'm here at his house. Yeah, it's kind of weird that we had to meet here, but it was literally the only way he could get me in. I need Charles Lavamore. He's the VP of funding at G Combinator, and nobody else is funding new games right now. It's just him. It's gonna be fine. Okay, I shared my location with you, and I'll call you afterward, okay? All right, bye.
Samantha, welcome.
It's Amanda. It's really great to meet you in person finally.
Yeah, no, come on in. I got a pickleball lesson in like 7 minutes, but I squeezed you in.
Okay, thanks for getting me in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have a lot to talk about you about. Okay. So I know you have a hard stop, and I really want to respect that. So I was thinking that we could start with going through the deck.
Love the deck you sent me, by the way.
Thanks.
Loved it. Okay, I didn't read the whole thing, obviously, but I'm sure it's great. But increase users, players, extend to different markets. Yes, capitalism.
Yes, that's exactly it. Expanding into new audiences, and our market research shows us that new audiences want sweet things like garden.
Do you like coffee?
Yes.
So these beans, they were grown in Ecuador, but it's roasted in New Zealand. Then packaged into fiberglass eggs and put into the nests of snowy owls in Canada for 3 months. And then finally, laser roasted. You can really taste the process. And it's $1,500 an ounce.
Wow. Okay, well, you know, coffee's universal, and our next game is based around growing and hand brewing coffee, and it's the ritual.
You know what? That's right.
The joy that.
Universal theme is key. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was VP of development at Bananarama Games, we had this helicopter sim game, right? And it was doing fine. But then we added lasers to the helicopters. Engagement went up 50,000%. You know what's universal? Lasers. Pew pew. And then we sold the company for $500 million, and the rest is history.
Well, that's a really incredible story, and I think that your experience is good.
You know what else is incredible? You look like someone who appreciates a good setup. Come on. Took half of
Oh my God. That's just a little clip of the whole, like it's about seven, a little over 7 minutes. But I already want to punch him.
Yeah. And I will say the actor Jack is a good friend. He's like a very sweet guy, an amazing actor, because yeah, that guy is just say he
But
deserves
I see
whatever.
so many conversations that I've had with investors where, you know, they have zero interest in what it is that you're actually building and just want to tell you how cool they are.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think there's also an element that I wanted to surface here and will continue to surface in future versions is like the pattern matching. Sometimes investments are made based on, oh, Johnny asked if you go to their house. You know, it's funny. Not usually, but it's happened. We showed this at a round table at, so A, my house is what we had to shoot at for the 48. But B, this happens. Like a friend of mine at the round, we showed this at GameSpeak Next. A friend of mine, we did a discussion afterwards, standing room only. It was amazing. And someone was like, yep, that happened to me. I was called once. Somebody had 30 minutes to talk to me, and I had to go out to his like boat that he was working on and talk to him. It's like, it's real. Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. You go where they want you to be. They say how high and you jump that high. So I was gonna say something else before I saw that, but the pattern matching. No, it's true. There's a lot of, it was, you know, you saw him say like, he was a VC obviously at this company where he probably didn't have much to do with anything product related with why that game was successful. And he's pattern matching on like, well, look, A plus lasers equals success. And that's an oversimplification, but that also, like my first year in games, I was hearing about an executive who it was kind of the opposite. They were like, add helicopter. That was when like open world was there. Just add helicopters, like make everything open world. And it's like, you know, like a very shallow understanding of what is actually going to resonate with players. So that's
not
true.
Not gonna lie, I felt that way with vehicles in World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Add helicopters, it'll be fine. Put lasers on them. And the pattern matching also sort of infects the process. It's an understandable piece of the process and how people with money choose where to put their money. So in the case of like VCs, usually a VC firm will have an investment thesis, and that's whatever form, you know, they'll kind of tell you what they're looking for in their deals, but behind the scenes, they have a calculation for rating whether they should make an investment. And one of the biggest factors in that is the founder a repeat founder? And so as I mentioned with me and Emily, Emily's amazing. Our vision was amazing. The team was amazing. But the fact that she was a repeat founder, it's like those other things may have not gotten us in the door. Her being a repeat founder got us in the door. The rest of it was important in closing the deal. But you think about that and you think about the vicious cycle of, I just read, I'm sorry, I don't have the right quote. It's something like 93% of VC money is controlled by men. And there are many reasons why only 2% goes to women, but you can imagine one part of it is this cycle of they've invested in men. Men are the repeat founders. They're investing again in repeat founders, just rinse and repeat. And so there's very little around the margins for new founders who aren't paired up with a repeat founder for ideas that 93% of controlling people understand. So this really trickles down. And I will say in this process of talking to people about it, I knew it was 2% for women, but of course, and I didn't know the figures before recently, it's at like 0.34% for Black founders. So you can just, it's like impossible. And then like multiply that by all these factors every time you just get outside of like the traditional kind of cookie cutter version of what a founder is. And it has nothing to do with the ideas. And like the research showed, that I showed in the film, founding teams that have a woman involved, whether they're all women or it's a gender diverse team, have 35% higher ROI. So part of what I'm working on is to share this messaging around, okay, yes, it's a social issue, but the people who control the money are just not going to care too much about that in many cases, not every case. What they're going to care about is the financial bottom line. And the more we can surface the research about how this is actually a good financial move and you're missing out, you're leaving money on the table, that is a language that some of the people, that's all they're going to hear. So after I showed the film at GamesBeat Next, Gina Joseph, who's the chief strategy officer of VentureBeat, she among lots of people were like, whoa, I knew this was bad. I didn't realize it was 2%. And she's amazing. She started brainstorming things. So we kept in touch and we're talking about like, what could we do? It was her idea to take the 2%. And we came up to, but she's very good at, it's like, we should put the messaging out there to raise awareness. We should keep it simple. So what we did was we made a Black image that had a pink 2% on it. We made the hashtag 2% spelled out. And then what she and I did about 5 days before January 14th, we didn't want to do it too far. People forgot. We contacted maybe 40 people each, just because it takes so long to do individual reach outs. And then within 12 hours, it had already sort of gone viral behind the scenes. And people who we didn't talk to were coming to us about collaborating about it. And so we were like, okay, cool. It has legs. Like, people are now doing like the grassroots groundwork for us. It's amazing. Other people wrote memos so we could say, at the very least, please post. We're trying to get 1,000 people to post this at the same time on the same day, so that that's all you can see on social media. It can't be ignored. And it could be as simple as just the hashtag and the image. But if you have your own story and message to share, please do. And we provided a lot of research and things. So on January 14th, we saw like incredible pickup of people just posting it in force.
It flooded LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm working on a video. I love the art that people did. There were people that made their own version. It wasn't just my Black 2% thing. And I'm making a video of all the art that people made for it. It's amazing. And I learned a lot. For me, it was amazing to see and kind of just become aware of all the different people and groups that are working on this, but in a non-coordinated way. Like, some people are tackling it from the let's get women into the decision-making part and all the way down the line. So, stay tuned. I'm working on a lot more film in this zone. I consider that 7-minute film like the prototype, and I'm working on a lot more stuff around this.
I love that. And a couple of things. I actually saw a statistic recently that said that the repeat founder factor actually works against women founders. That, repeat male founders, like, that's actually one of the, thesis kind of checkpoints. But when it comes to women, it actually makes it harder for them to raise, which I find fascinating. And I don't quite understand it, but it's something that we have to just evaluate the criteria that funding decisions get made in general, because there are markets out there that literally cannot be addressed by men. And with half of gamers being women at this point and girls playing at the same rate as their male counterparts, we need people who we need those people to be making games for them. And if they're not making games, we're just going to further create this disparity. And, some girls will get into Fortnite, or they're just going to be stuck playing Roblox and Minecraft for, a majority of their life. And that's actually something that our game, I want to solve. I want to make a great, semi-hardcore adventure game that is specifically designed to appeal to the female gamer, but doesn't talk down to them. And it's the same thing for actually our target audience for Haven. This is kind of a fun little segue, is that we're making a family-friendly game that's designed for parents to play with their kids. But not like baby kids, but they're preteens and they're teenagers, the ones that are aged up out of Minecraft, aged up out of Roblox, but they don't have something to fill their family game night. Because did you know on console, there's like less than 10 titles that are couch co-op?
Yes, and I know this because I constantly search for it for me and my 14-year-old. And we have played every one that exists and we are out. So I'm very excited to see your game.
Yeah, and like and half of the options are Call of Duty, Diablo 3, and Diablo 4.
I mean, we played It Takes Two and Overcooked. Like those were the two that kind of worked.
Yeah, and Stardew Valley, thank God for Bored Ape and his Stardew Valley, because it's an incredible title.
I'm still playing it.
And I know that there are other female founders out there. Like my former team member, Jen McLean, like she started up Dragon Snacks, and she's making a game for the same audience. And I'm like just so excited for her. We actually have a very similar thesis for what we're building. And I want to see her game made and my game made because they can live alongside each other, because we need more options. There's not enough in this space. And we need games that like actually want to respect their players, create non-toxic environments, have, trust and safety at the forefront. And male founders, and male run companies, unfortunately, my being on many teams, like they just don't care. They don't see that as priority. And so I think we have an opportunity to really change the conversation in games. And I wish that VC would actually give us that chance.
Yeah, you said something important. I think that as founders, we should be supportive of each other. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like and this is kind of goes to the heart of a lot of online toxicity, where it's like they're putting whatever into our games. And it's like, actually, if you have a diverse game designer making a game that can speak to someone else that has not been spoken to, that doesn't mean you're not getting your games. Like, it's not like that cuts off this. So that scarcity mindset is what just like doesn't make sense. And I'm so glad to hear it. Same here. It's like we all just pull together. It makes it, I think it lifts all boats.
A rising tide lifts all boats. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So speaking of which,
do we get to play it? I don't know how long we have. Maybe I talked too long. We don't have a ton of time, but I really want to play your game.
Well, we are gonna play the game. I mean, do you have a hard stop?
I don't.
Because I don't. I mean, we can go long.
Oh, great. All right.
All right. So, are you sharing your?
And you guys, seriously, Irena is like the best. I just love you. I'm so glad we're doing this. It's not like, oh yes, Irena's amazing. It's like she and I connected, and it was just so hard. Like we're like, what's the most witchy outfit we could wear? Like, it's just like on like all fronts. She's awesome.
Shelby too. I just felt like energetically we were like heart twins, and I really relish any experience to be able to hang out with you. So I hope I can get to GDC this year.
Yeah,
because it's going to be also random GDC thing. Just propping you up, Shelby. If you have multicolored hair. Please find Shelby at GDC, because there's a project in the works. Do you want to talk a little bit more about?
Okay, I can. Yeah. So last year, in my like YOLO vein of thought, I was like, well, I don't have a job. I'm going to GDC, and I'm just going to spend the time like talking to people that I want to spend time with, which is great. And I was like, I had this random idea. I was like, okay, if I see you at GDC and you have pink hair, I'm going to try to take a selfie with you. And so it was like this like lark of a thought, but it turned into this like amazing thing I didn't plan, which was that I got to meet and connect with so many people who were not the stereotypical ones I meet a lot in conference rooms where we're doing pitches. It's like the aspiring developers, the indie developers, the younger developers, the more diverse developers. And it kind of like recharged like who I know and get to talk to, and I love it. And it was amazing. And this year, what I'm trying to do is expand it beyond pink. I'm trying to find a representative for as many of the different colors as I can, so that I can have our army of people trying to get like pink, blue, green, purple, all of it.
See the composite
and put together a rainbow. So I'm on LinkedIn, find me. I have like a sign up sheet if you want to rep a color.
I love it. I love it. And just one more plug for the folks that have joined us on LinkedIn. We've got Eric Barnes from Digital Hazard Studio. He's fundraising as well, building another really cool title. And we have Christopher Main, who I met at another Games Beat. Amazing dude. And he and his wife built a MMO platform for Unreal. Like literally, you can just go out and start from like the base functionality of an MMO with Vertical Third. You go to verticalthird.com. I like when it released, I was so excited. I bought it. We haven't been using it, but it's in our GitHub, Chris. I just need to know so that if we ever do switch to Unreal or we want to build an Unreal version of it, we have it. But please support these founders, give them introductions, and like let's see more games on the market because there's going to be a massive gap in 26 and 27. So speaking of which, let's play Haven. We're in. But are you sharing your screen?
I'm about to run it, and then I will share my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I believe so. Hopefully it'll. It's always exciting to figure out which, like, I have two monitors, so
Here, I'll share my screen.
for some
I can
reason it
figure out
is not
to do-
giving me Haven as an option. That's weird. Okay, hang on. Is there a way for me to? This is so strange. I'm sorry. I'm not a total noob. It's just not letting me. Oh. Sorry, I figured it out. I
I'm
haven't.
sharing my screen to fill the space.
Okay, cool. Can you see my screen now? I shared it.
I just had, there was like an indicator for me to share your screen. Replace
Okay.
screen sharing.
Should I
There it is. No, I got it. This is me learning how to use Restream. Oh, there she is.
Here I am. Yay.
Okay, so big change log note is that we have entirely new lightings, and you get lightings. We have entirely new lighting. Shelby, you get to be the first to experience it. Is it logging in?
It says it's connecting. Yeah. Should I try again?
Well, check the folder that Haven is in. There should be a serverlist.txt next to your executable, which will have that has the IP for the our server.
Okay. Oh man, I'm so sorry. This is what happens on live streams.
It's all good. No worries. It's live.
Yeah.
It's the part we get to edit when.
Yeah, and it's like. Okay, let me see if I can force quit because it's not responding at all.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a server list. So where do I put that IP into your game?
You don't need to. Just put that text file wherever it is that you have the Haven app.
It is in that same folder.
Okay. Curious.
Yeah, we tested this far. Let me, if I can, I don't know if my, let's see. Oh no. Okay, can you see my, am I still sharing my,
no, you're not.
Whole thing? Okay, I'm sharing my monitor so you can see, like I've got the executable here.
There we go.
The server list is in the same folder.
So run it again?
Yeah. Oh no.
You can do it.
Oh, and it hasn't updated my live thing to actually show the game. Weird. I am actually on the login screen. Okay, I'll put in my real name. Maybe it doesn't like my handle. It's strange that it's not even updating what I was showing. Let's see. Yeah, it's just stuck on connecting.
That's weird. Uh-oh.
I know.
Can you try putting them into a different folder? Just drag them onto your desktop?
Yeah. I can also, try a full restart of my computer. That would like take a minute.
That's okay. I'm target out of range. So the server is up and working, and I'm using the same exact build.
Okay, I'll try one more time, and then I will restart my computer.
I got us a health potion, though.
Yay!
We're covered.
We're gonna need it.
Yeah, we are. I built myself a house earlier.
Oh my gosh, I really want to play. That's so cute.
You'll be there.
Oh, you have a witch hat on. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna restart my computer and then I will rejoin the stream.
Okay, crossing fingers.
I
believe in
know.
us.
Okay,
We
I
can
do too.
this.
Okay, I'll be back in a moment.
All right. Well, I'll gather some resources while we wait. And I can take you all for a tour of our new lighting. This is our new beacon from Becky, which I am a little obsessed with. And we've made the whole zone really dark because part of our core story is that the world has been engulfed in shadow, and the players have to bring back the light with rebuilding their village. And so every building that you make in a zone actually helps restore the light for the world. I need a buff. Okay, so maybe I can just lay down an arcane mill. I'll put it here next to the beacon because this might be helpful someday. Let's see, do I have enough resources? So I need more clay. I need a lot more rocks, but I do have enough wood, but I don't have any hardwood. Uh-oh. Well, maybe there's some cotton here. There's a kraken root. I'm going to avoid it and see if I can get away with not aggroing it. And I'm only getting mushrooms. That's not helpful. All right, fine. I'm going to murder this octopus wood thing. Come here, friend. Yeah. Oh, see, my buff made a big difference. Close that loot window. So yeah, you can see the trees off in the distance and some mountains. This is the village zone where every player gets their own building plot. This is another player's building plot over here. And this is in the center of town where you see this big beacon. This is actually the shared part of the village. Oh, Shelby's back. We're going to see. Let me moving my mouse around. You're back.
I'm back. I'm still stuck on the connecting screen.
Are you kidding? Okay, so I'm going to go over here.
I think my husband's watching. I don't know if my husband has any ideas.
Oh,
I don't think there's anything weird about our internet that would block this or anything. So
yeah, I'm loading up into the server on the back end to see why it's not connecting. Okay, it
Hi,
says
Alyssa.
that there's 3 players live.
Do you see my name?
I see Tozem, Scourge, and myself, but I don't see your name.
Ah, okay. I got it disconnected. Oh, I should share my screen. Sorry, so you can see what's going on.
That's okay.
Yeah. Jamil and my husband's in the chat. He's like, I can reboot the router. That's what I'm kind of wondering. Maybe we should do that. Like, play tactical support. Let me try. Yeah. I mean, that's the only, I've restarted my computer. That's the only thing. Maybe Windows firewall. So I'm on Mac. I did have to run it basically as an administrator to get it to run in the first place, but I don't know if I would have a firewall blocking it otherwise.
Can you open up the serverless.txt? It's going to expose our server IP to everybody, but
I can stop. Do you want me to stop sharing my window?
I can bring your screen share down and put mine back up. How about you should be on port 7777?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the IP address is there. That is so strange.
I just
yeah, no,
posted
that's let me
yeah.
recheck. The server IP is there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long people will hang on. I could try it on a different computer, but I don't know how much is going to make a difference. Maybe, are you running Mac or Windows? Is there an issue with the Mac?
I'm running on a Mac, so that's
Okay.
why it's really baffling that it's not working. So it
Yeah.
must be some sort of security setting on your router.
I don't seem to be able to chat, so I'll answer live. Jamil, no, I don't have the VPN on.
Here, hold on.
It's not game dev production. Yeah, this is why we don't do live demos, but we do. Like, we know when Irena was earlier, like, and we don't show things in progress for reasons. And this is very inevitable. I downloaded what Irena sent me today. It has a date was yesterday at 5:53 p.m.
And we tested it this morning, so it worked for both Mac and PC.
Yep.
I don't
really
feel bad.
I know.
No,
I know. It's like one of those. It's not. I'm not sure what to do. I can pause for a minute and go grab my laptop and just see if I'm able to do it from there.
You can give that a shot. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
We're going to teleport to Adventureland and see if we have any friends. But y'all, check out the new lighting in Adventureland. It's actually more back to what we were aiming for, but we had a bug that was making it way too bright. But it looks so much better now. Hey, and there's a Tozeb. Hey, friend. Yeah, I'm going to give you a buff. We need a hug emote. Hugs. And we can, there's all sorts of resources out here. I actually need some hardwood from Adventureland to be able to build out our arcane mill. So let's see if we can go out here and not die. The number one rule is don't die, just like Brian Johnson. And chop down trees. Let's see, did we get any hardwood? Let's see. Yes, we got one. We need 3, I think. One more. Chop, chop, chop. Yes, there's another one. Maybe this one. Yes. Okay, we got all of our hardwood. And now, hey, Scourge is here as well. We got 2 healers and a mage. This is going to go great. Yay. One of the things that is actually like really important to us. Oh, is this the wrong direction? No, we need more. We need to be able to harvest some bushes so that we can get cotton because we need cotton bolts. Oh, and Shelby's back.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say Jamila is restarting the router while I get my laptop up, so I may suddenly disappear for a minute, and then I'll be back.
Well, we'll miss you.
I know.
I will sing the song of your departure.
Oh. I hope it's a sea shanty. I'm really not tired of those. The Wellerman, like never tired of Wellerman ever.
My 8-year-old sings the Wellerman. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes we'll catch him singing it, which is
awesome.
Amazing.
I love him.
But there's also there's a really cool place here in Providence where on the 3rd Friday of every month they do sea shanties where like from 7:30 to 9:30 they're kid friendly and they invite people with families to come. But then after 9:30 it's no holds barred, like the bad words come out, the naughty songs come out, but they also give you instruments to come and play along. It is the most wonderful thing. I want a video game to feel like that. That's kind of life goals for Haven. Feeling like you're singing naughty sea shanties together while also, taking down bosses and running dungeons. All right, we got some cotton. Scourge needs a mage buff. Oh, and we're going to get a wolf by ourselves. This is going to go fine. Yes. Oh, but Scourge died in the process. I don't have a taunt. No. We need a res. Lol, rip. We had the best intentions. Yes, we did. All right. Shelby is back. If I can figure out where my mouse goes. I'm going from like one screen to the other. Shelby's back. Your router worked.
I can hear you. I'm frozen for myself, but let me just try this. Okay, I'm unfrozen. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, we can.
Okay, I'm downloading the build on my laptop so that I have it over here. Here's Jamil.
Hello.
Personified.
Hi, Jamil.
Hi.
Hello, Delight personified.
Yes, he can't hear you because of my headphones, but
Oh, yeah.
he can hear you. So
Okay.
he manifested from chat into person.
I
I
love
am
that.
restarting the network, so we should be.
It did our.
Okay,
I
it
mean,
should
it
be back
restarted
now.
because I'm back online now.
Okay, great.
So I'm just downloading the build again.
All right.
We'll see. Yeah, this is just an IP issue because the server's up and running, and so I mean we've at least eliminated one possibility.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you can now hear my dog doing anything. I promise he will cough for his life, but he's okay.
He's a cute little fuzzball.
He's cute. Yeah, he has a chronic cough. But
What is this thing circling?
that looks like it's my G drive backup.
Oh, okay.
That's complete.
I just can't figure this out.
I know, it's so weird.
Well, you found a use case that we have to correct
And
for.
you don't have the VPN running.
Yeah. This does have value, though it's less entertaining than running around building houses together.
Truth.
And we can do it again if I want to do this. It looks so fun.
I just cannot figure this out.
We need a tank, Shelby. You'd be a great tank.
Sure. I will tell you, I always tend to play as a Robin Hood. Like, and I don't know if that's possible in your game. I tend to like steal everything that's not
Yes.
nailed down, but then I'm like very good and kind and generous. But like Skyrim, probably 80% of my hours were spent like waiting for someone to turn around so I could steal the jewels, even if I had enough money.
That's delightful.
Yeah, I don't know. It started with Quest for Glory long ago when you could be like a fighter, thief, or mage, and I would sort of min-max to be a thief and a mage, so a thief that does magic. And I'd never played an RPG before, and I just like it started, and I have never stopped playing that way. I love it.
I support this, and now you've given me a new play pattern that I need to make sure to accommodate.
Ooh.
I love Skyrim. I actually spent more time playing Oblivion, if you'd believe it. I spent way too much time in Oblivion.
I love them both. Honestly, I have these like fond memories of the weirdness of Morrowind, even though it's not super playable when you go back.
No,
But I'm definitely not a person who can replay games very often. I get a little bored. So I'm not somebody who's spent like the last 10 years playing Skyrim, but when I played it fully. Like I did everything.
I love it. And so we had a couple of comp queues for this game that felt like that we wanted to use to help guide the team in what we were aiming for.
I'll mute myself.
And
Sorry.
one of them was that we wanted to make a game that felt like Skyrim meets WoW. I'm making more cotton bolts so that we can craft this thing. All right. I'm adding. Oh, I don't have enough cotton bolts. Will I have enough? No. Oh, God. I don't have enough cotton. Oh, goodness. Chris, yeah, no, the days of EverQuest on a rogue, pickpocketing everything, like EQ is game goals. Like I want a game to feel like EQ did for me, where it was just like this giant playground where you could do pretty much anything and you had to kind of dig for the content. It wasn't necessarily handed you the same way that games do these days. I think it's been the greatest tragedy of all time was the exclamation point over NPC heads in World of Warcraft. And yet everyone does that now.
I missed part of what you were saying, but Oblivion is actually the first game I remember doing that, where it was like you suddenly had a map marker to everything. You didn't have to like spend 50 hours trying to figure out which tree to look at or whatever. So yeah,
well,
like
there's a subtle art of doing it right.
Mhm.
You know, like not handing it to the player,
Sure,
but
an area at least.
exactly. Or like you don't want to spend all of your time like in Final Fantasy talking to all the NPCs, the ones that just have like the ... when you speak to them because nobody bothered to write them any dialogue, or it's just a repeat of the last dialogue that you read. That's not necessarily fun.
Yuck.
But all right.
I can't chat, but Christopher, I totally agree with you. Like I didn't play EverQuest too much, but yeah, just spending all the time pickpocketing everything. And then I also often do stuff like that so much that I never reach the end of a game because I want to make sure I do everything. And then I burn myself out and then I don't get to the end. I'm pretty sure I finished Skyrim, but I definitely went down a rabbit hole of doing too many of those randomly generated quests, thinking they were legit side quests. So when I realized, I was like, oh, I'm wasting my time. I need to like get to the end. But I often don't. I have so many games unfinished.
Oh my goodness. The struggle is real, legitimately.
Yeah. I will say when I had pneumonia and I was on the couch and I had my Steam Deck, I finally went through my giant backlog of Steam games, like indie games that are like 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 5 hours long. And there are some like amazing short experiences that I love. And it's short enough that you can like restart and try a different ending. One of those was the Sisterhood of the Cosmic Wheel, which I love. And it's this like space witches, pixel art, tarot card making game that I feel like if you haven't played it, Irena, you should play it.
Oh, that sounds like it was made
immediately.
for me.
I know. Sisterhood of the Cosmic Wheel. It's one that constantly came up on recommendations. It's like 3 hours long, and then you can replay it, and there's like wildly different endings.
All right, I have to ask though, like,
Yeah.
what's the last game you played?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna say Balatro because like it's like taken over my brain and I play it too much. But besides Balatro, Dragon Age Veilguard, myself, and then I'm helping my son, my 6-year-old, on his like 5th playthrough of Dragon Quest Builders 2. It was like the first game he really latched onto because I was playing it a couple years ago, and he was like,
Oh, that's fun.
He fell in love with one of the characters, and now he's gone from seeing me do it to him actually controlling it, and I'm helping him, and so he just never gets tired of that game.
That's amazing.
But I love it too. It's a fun creativity game, and it's pretty fun.
Well, anything Dragon Quest related is a win in my book.
Yes, it's great.
But
oh man, if you haven't played it, I recommend it.
I do want to check it out. So yeah, the last game I played was actually on Amir Satvat's recommendation, which was Dave the Diver. I put it on the airplane and I didn't sleep a wink because I just kept, like diving more and more.
Yes.
I could not.
I think I played that one. It might have even been the first one I played in my like pneumonia couch era. And yeah, I played it so much. I finished it, and then they came out with some DLCs that I haven't played yet because it's like I haven't been able to like crack it back open, but I love that game.
It is so good and so replayable.
I know. It makes me want to eat sushi whenever I play it.
I wonder why.
I wonder. I'm like,
But the thing that like really killed me about Dave the Diver was like the sushi sequences and the animations for the sushi making.
Yes,
and
those are
art.
They're amazing. And those are the first things I ever saw or heard about the game. I think it was like an incredible sort of marketing thing to see these like wild animations. Oh, I love it. The art is beautiful.
The art is so well done. I went into it completely blind. All I thought I'd be doing is fishing, and yeah, it was so readily impressive and engrossing.
Yes. I always say I really love weird indie games, but the weird can mean a lot of things. And it's basically things unexpected like that. Like they're saying weird things, they're doing weird things, the game goes places you don't expect. Like I love that. And so there's some experiences like that. Like there was a game called A Dark Room. I don't know if you remember this or played it. It was on web and then it was on mobile. And it's just like a black and white text game. And it just starts like you're in a room. There's a piece of wood and a fire. And you like do this game, but then about 3 times through the game, it completely morphs into a different type of game. Like unexpected. I really love that game.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is there any game that you're really looking forward to? Besides playing.
Sorry, what? Oh, besides playing Haven? Yes. Let's see. My memory is terrible. I mean, my 14-year-old and I are talking about the next Assassin's Creed, which I'm always like, if it's good, I love it. If it's not, like sometimes they're not. Let's see. I mean, I'll play GTA because it's interesting, but I can't say I'm excited. Like I played the last one until a certain point where I was just like had the ick feeling too much and I just stopped. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm not willing to be that bad a person.
Yeah, GTA is a tough one for me because, like, I don't know. There's just it crosses my personal moral compass, and I'm not a big fan of even doing it virtually. Like some people are cool with that, but it's a tough one. Yeah, though Red Dead Redemption was one of my absolute favorites.
I completely agree. Yeah, it definitely. I think there's like a time and a place. It doesn't have to be like an all happiness and roses and rainbows story for me, but it's like Red Dead has morally ambiguous things happen in a way that tells a meaningful story rather than it just being like kind of for shock value, which is what GTA feels like to me.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to think about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at my wish list and reminding myself because there's so many games. I'm excited about Civ 7, maybe. I'm excited because I have friends who actually work there on the narrative team. And I'm really excited to see and they've talked about a little bit in the marketing for the game that there's more of a narrative element. And I do tend to play games a lot of times for story. I play lots of system games too, but I'm excited if there is a little bit more sort of narrative side to the world building in that one. That could be cool.
That would be very interesting. I love the Civ games. Anything Sid Meier, I am all over. I'm like an old school RTS player from when I was younger, like Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Civilization, SimCity, any old games. Oh, yeah. So,
I'm excited about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming to PS5. Because it's only been Xbox till now, I think, and I've heard just like lovely things about it, so I'm excited to play that.
Yeah, I know I've heard so many good things about Indiana Jones. Were you like inspired by Indiana Jones when you were a kid?
It's definitely in that constellation of that era of 90s, very beautiful Sierra and LucasArts adventure point and click adventure games, and so it wasn't my starting point, but it was in that constellation of like, yes, this is what I need to do. I need to be working on these like amazing worlds and stories and characters. And I have a real deep fondness for anything 90s adventure games, Sierra and LucasArts particularly. Though there are some other ones like The Legend of Corandia I'm blanking on the developer, but there were some other ones in that era that I loved too.
Oh my God, I hadn't thought of that game in a long time.
I know. I remember some of the puzzles like so clearly. And it was back before there was internet really. So I would like scour. I know everyone did this then. It's like scour every like word in the booklet. And that was the only source of info I had about like the designers of these games. And I would just like, it was just like a black box mystery to me of how do you even become a game developer? Like what even is the job? So a lot of times when I do a lot of like quick talks to students because, and my focus is usually just to be like, here are all the jobs. Like, this is how it works, because it's so mysterious, even with the internet and people talking about it now. It's like way more mysterious to somebody kind of thinking they want to do it than it needs to be.
Oh, absolutely. We've kind of created a black box out of the game industry. Actually, one of the things that I've done while I'm fundraising is I've actually taken on a adjunct professorship at New England Institute of Tech. So I'm teaching in the game design department there.
Oh, yay. I
And
wanted to ask you about that. You're doing it remotely, obviously?
no, I'm doing it in person. So I have 2 classes a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This term, I'm teaching 2D art and animation,
Nice.
which is awesome. Like, they have a game engine that they need to reskin with their own like theme. So one of their early assignments was to come up with character concepts around the theme for their game and the theme for their main character. And though last term I taught HTML and JavaScript so that they would understand the basics of how to set up a canvas and how to set up game events. And they did top-down games and side scrollers. And now they're reskinning their side scrollers. So like, I have one student making a game about a vicious, murderous Canada goose, which
I love it. That's a documentary. I've lived near them before.
yes, no,
Yes, they will attack you. They are not nice.
They are not nice whatsoever. I have another one that is making a game about a sentient like portable radio in the style of Fallout, which I'm again all about.
Yes.
And
I love that.
And like, there are girls in my class. Last term, I only had one female developer in my class, but this term I have, I think 3 or 4 that are female or femme-identifying, and one of them is making this really cool game about nature coming back and enacting vengeance. And so there's like this vine creature that's the main character, and she has to kind of destroy the signs of civilization. Just like,
that's incredible.
Super cool. All of these ideas. But the best thing about it is I'm seeing all of these like bright-eyed and excited like college freshmen. This is all entry-level game dev. Like, this is the future of the game industry.
Absolutely.
Right? And also, as I fight for funding, I'm thinking about them, and like, I can hire these people. It's a fresh source of talent, and I can help. And it really inspires them to see that, making games is a real thing and that they can do it. And I tell them stories as we're like, developing their little games. I'm giving them tips on, what best like compression ratios for JPEGs, for backgrounds, and which image formats they should use in order to optimize frame rate, and how to use sprite sheets in order to, manage performance issues. Like,
that's amazing. You're an amazing font of multidisciplinary information on how to get started. Because like most teachers don't have such a wide breadth of ability on that. I completely agree with you about how inspiring young developers are, or aspiring developers. And I used to work at Roblox, and this is a while ago, before Roblox went mobile, and we would have, I actually got to work on one of the BloxCons, which was a one-day event where like kids who play Roblox came. They had a hackathon with these like 10-year-old kids making amazing things. And I was so inspired by what, not just at the BloxCon, but in general, the games that kids would make. And they were not, this is way before the days of like professional VC backed developers getting on there, way less cynical. And there would be games, like weird games you would never see like anywhere else, like a real-time simulator of being a passenger on the Titanic and it sinking, and based on what you can do, and like these crazy things that are always so amazing to see. I did want to mention, I don't know how many aspiring developers we have on here, but I used to tell people just do it. Nothing's stopping you from just try it. Do a game jam, blah, blah, blah. And I'm really excited this year that I've become so much more aware, not in the past year, not like 2025, but there's a whole network, a giant number of volunteer only studios that band together. So like Cave Bear Games is one of them, and they have a Discord with a network of many studios and followers.
Ayla
And
Derek is amazing.
what'd you say?
Ayla Derek at Caveman.
Oh yeah,
Or
she's
Cave Bear
awesome.
Game, sorry.
Yeah, no, totally. I've gotten to hang out with her a few times on podcasts and stuff, and I'm excited about their game, but I'm also just impressed with their network of the whole ethos of like rising tide lifts all boats, and what those studios are giving the studio to students and aspiring developers is like the chance to be on a team that makes a game like start to finish, and it's volunteer only. They're not getting paid, but they're getting like even a much deeper experience than you do on a game jam, where you have to do this like sustained effort and see the pitfalls and go start to finish. You like, I'm sure you feel the same way, but a lot of times I say like everything I've learned in my 20 years of game dev is from something that went wrong. And the spidey sense you develop about like, that seems like not a big deal now, but like I've been through that where this actually can take you fully off the rails. And that's kind of what comes with a lot of experience, but you need to mix that and mentor that with people who are fresh and have new ideas like you're talking about. So I think, again, like the magic of our team at Double Loop, we had an amazing group of senior experienced leaders, and we were able to also hire a couple of amazing juniors straight out of college who just were brilliant and taking things on immediately. There was no like, it wasn't like, oh, it'll take them a year to be helpful. It was like, no, they're amazing. So
yeah, they just jump right in. And it's funny because one of the members on our team is actually an indie dev that came onto the stream and saw what we were building, and
cool.
he knew some of the assets that we had brought in to kind of give us a leg up. And by the way, a lot of AAA games are like literally a collection of a bunch of assets that we put together. They're tools from third-party developers that we put together in a unique way. It's a buy versus build debate at all times.
All times.
Yeah.
It's never been settled in the 20 years I've been in it.
Right. But, doing the buy portion, or in some cases, the open source portion, gets us really a lot further. Just like Chris Main's tool of Vertical Third to be able to get like an MMO up off the ground, and get all the basic combat systems, inventory, loot. We've done something similar, and a portion of my team, my engineers, had actually gotten other work, which like I'm so glad for them. But we were left with no engineers for a long time, and he was like, "I could help you get your server up and running and working." And he's now joined our team. He's never had any professional experience, but dude has released like 5 games, and they're up on
That's
Steam.
amazing.
And they've all been like solo dev projects, and his level of experience is really impressive. But like, I could totally see his challenges of, getting onto an official team would be really hard, because a lot of devs like that don't really get the time of day when they're applying for jobs. So
yeah, and that's actually who you totally want on your team, where it's like somebody who is gonna, if they don't know it, they figure it out, and that will take you so far.
People.
The developer of Balatro is similar, where he's I don't know if you know this, he's anonymous. He has his handle, but he's never released his name publicly. And he makes games, like he's just made games for a long time. It's not even his day job, but he makes games, makes them for his friends. And Balatro and he's made many. And Balatro was one that his friend was like, I just played that game for 15 hours straight. I'm addicted. And he does it for himself, which I think is awesome. And of course, he's now found financial success and freedom in doing this one, which is also awesome. But I think there's got to be that like internal drive to just make and create. And that can be a really privileged place that I want to recognize. That I've also had times in my life where that does not work. You have so many asks on your time and your emotions, and things can be too hard. But if you're in a position to that like internal hunger to create and to figure it out, like you can't fake that. And that is like, when I see that in someone, that's when I'm like, okay, they're gonna go far.
Yeah,
they're not. The sky's the limit.
I found that certain folks, when you bring them up bring them off of a professional team. Like they have their role and they've just decided that like they do this thing. They are a lighting artist, or they are just a server engineer, or they're a tech artist, or we do tools. And that's something that we optimized for, you know, even when we built our first team, was finding people that were willing to get their hands dirty. Like our art director had actually never gotten his hands into an engine ever before in his life, but was literally in game working on lighting and making the tweaks himself. And like the work is so much faster when all cooks are in the kitchen, because you're not needing to do that translation layer of trying to describe what you want to get across. You can just go in and do it yourself and then test it. So we actually optimize for that capability or that willingness, and just say, if you want to make a change, do it. Don't ask for permission, because if you're asking for permission or asking for approval, you're wasting time.
Definitely.
You know, if you have a great agreement on where you're going in the long term, that's all you really need to be able to be successful. And if the way that you make that team efficient is by like setting the expectations, having a very clear vision. Like we have a 35-page vision deck of what our priorities are. And then we had a concept artist, like we have an elemental-based magic system, but we didn't have any sort of specific direction of what we should do with how magic should be expressed. So we just let her go nuts. And she created these incredible concepts of like gods of the different elements. And I'll show you offline, because this is one of our big surprises of like the deep lore that we have. But like when you allow people the space to be creative like that, without the limits of, well, that's only okay if you talk to the narrative lead and the design lead and the art lead.
Yeah.
Like, and then they just don't even want to contribute their ideas.
Yeah.
You end up losing in the end.
So much is lost. That is definitely one of the joys of working on small teams, that I've had experience on large and small. And you're right. Like the bigger the team is, the more you get narrowed down to being a widget that's like, I make windowsills only, like that, you know. And the smaller the team is, the more
like, you know, a specialist to make doors. But
yeah, and there's these like thresholds of when you get beyond 4 people, when you get beyond 20 people, when you get beyond 40 or 60, like basically the entire like management and communication structure has to change. And I remember the first time I was on a project where it was so large that we couldn't do a daily stand-up of everyone. It was like a daily stand-up of managers of managers. It was like, I was like, this is so much time spent on all of this, and so much wasted time not spent on the game. And I'm really lucky that I spent my first 8 years in a place that values what you're talking about, which is, it was small, we were scrappy, we never had enough people to do everything. So there was like opportunity to just like raise my hand and try something I hadn't done before. The first game I worked on was Rampage Total Destruction. And they were like, okay, cool. So like your gameplay programmer just like, we need to make a city a week. And I was like, and they're like, go. And I was like, okay. So I was like scripting the behaviors of the little like military squads, and I did a balancing pass on all of the points. And I was like, doesn't somebody like want to tell me if I can do this or not? But like, nope. And it was great. It's like you give people the freedom to figure it out, and they do. And another great example of that was at Double Loop. The one thing is, when you're a designer, and I'm not able to write code like you are, I don't write code anymore. I used to. It's been so long, it's not efficient. And I've worked with prototype engineers they're like, you said ABC, I did ABC. But then we had our first employee at Double Loop was Min, who is an amazing engineer that came from Emily's old company. And he was our prototype engineer. And he was able to take like the things we talked about and then make gameplay where he had thought about it and said, okay, this will be a little more fun or clear if like the piece sort of bounces in the direction you're moving. And just all these little things that if I had to like stop and write a 20-page design doc while we were prototyping to find the fun, it would have never gotten done. And that magic led us, like, we made 27 prototypes before we settled on our game.
Oh my God.
Out. And that's only possible when you have people who are like, he was a good enough artist to make placeholder art, and he is a good enough designer to figure out how this should work. And he's a great engineer, and he's really fast. So that sort of ability to be, like you said, like filling multiple functions and like kind of do it yourself to some degree. You don't have to be the best art director, but you need to be able to do something. That gets you a lot farther.
I don't know if you see what's happening right now, but
Mhm.
we are trying to kite a boss with no tank. And
Oh no, I'm sorry.
no, it's all good. This is actually a good test of the content. So if I'm not very
Oh.
responsive, it's because I'm really stressed out. I'm trying to
sorry.
snare him.
That's okay.
You can see the spell effect on one leg, but that might like snare. Oh God, I don't have any mana. Oh gosh.
no.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
I have some more mana. We're gonna do
Oh,
this.
man. That's so hard. You take them down 1% at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually
Oh.
surprised we got him down this far, and Tozib is keeping me alive right now. He is a goddamn hero.
Oh my gosh.
You are a hero, Tozib. I don't know if you can hear
It's
me.
so funny. I'm watching the chat actually. It's interesting. Somebody said that's how it is in the nonprofit world, which is interesting. I didn't know that. And then somebody else said they were just looking at Rampage Total Destruction yesterday. That's awesome. There's a character in the game. All the monsters have like kind of punny names, and there's one that's named as Shelby. I think it's a crab, and its name was something else until I joined the team, and then we were like, "What about Shelby?" So in those early days, like we would definitely do self inserts a lot. Like they named that monster that, and then there was one where we did like a motorcycle racing game, and they made not made, but volunteers. We all like posed and like they put motorcycle. So I was one of the motorcycle drivers, just like a profile picture in there with like a motorcycle jacket. It's very funny.
That is amazing. And I do appreciate a good pun in a game because that is key.
Yeah.
Or,
That's fun.
I mean, that's actually our Kraken root. That creature was the result of us. We tried to make trees or like harvesting a form of combat because we thought that would be the most interesting. Like there's a lot of gameplay space there. And then you can get like multiplayer harvesting. So like, hey, you want to take down a whole forest. There's like an early prototype where like, mages could set the entire forest on fire. So like there was like a giant forest fire. Maybe it's too soon for Los Angeles right now. But like when you would kill a tree or chop down a tree, the stump would like pop out of the ground and roll down the hill. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if like it would like get up and attack you? Once you like got the tree down, it would just fight back. And so we did. We turned that into our first mob. We made it a septipus in honor of the septipus in Finding Nemo. Made our Kraken root, which is essentially supposed to be the trees of the forest coming back and enacting revenge.
That's cool.
So random, like I'm all about the puns because
I love that.
Can't survive without them. All right. Well, it was a valiant effort, and we got him down below half health, friends. Like, let it just be noted. For the record, we almost got there.
You almost got there.
So I'm sorry that like you only got a chance to observe the gameplay.
That's
if
okay.
We, there, we would have won.
Well, we're gonna figure this out offline because I really want to play with you. Maybe I'll try the next build whenever there's one, and I'm happy to work with you to figure out what's wrong on my side. Yeah.
I would love to have you come and check it out. I mean, what did you think from your observer seat at least?
I mean, observing it looked really fun, and I. As an observer who's also chatting with you, who is also looking stuff up, I think my understanding of your goals is probably clearer from just the talking than like I wasn't watching as deeply as I'd like to. But I love the focus on cooperation. And then I was going to say, as you were talking about like, making harvesting real gameplay, like that kind of scratches an itch that's always been there since I was very young, imagining like going into these games and just like living a life. Like I'm going to go and just chop trees and make a thing. And there's a lot of joy in that. So it sounds to me and looks like you guys are sort of focusing on those delightful moments and times where you can work together. And you built your house, which I really want to build. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. And yeah, that actually touches on like a key point of this game is that we didn't want to reinvent the wheel when it comes to an RPG. We want to feed into the familiarity of, a game that I helped make, which is World of Warcraft. We're not necessarily carbon copying it because we're stealing from anybody else. No, like a lot of the decisions that I got to make for the game are present here because these are things that just universally work. But at the same time, we are considering like, well, what does World of Warcraft look like, but even more collaborative?
Mhm.
And, actually, we started off with the problem space of player housing, how in MMOs, we've always wanted player housing. And every time we've had player housing in a game, it's been tacked on as an afterthought where you zone into an instance or, in EverQuest 2, you would like double click on a door to get into your apartment and everybody access their apartment from the same spot. So the abstraction kind of fell apart because of the instancing. So the corpus of our game is like, well, what if we literally started with player housing and then had it have some like key gameplay consequence, like the more complex and more interesting your house, the more powerful you were as a player. Like that's where you customize your character class is how you decorate your house. And then when you put multiple houses together, multiple players, that allows you to unlock more functionality for the whole group. So you get, like here I built an arcane mill, which is a communal building, and it comes with NPCs. And you build an arcane mill and you build a town, like a town center or a town hall, and then it unlocks a stable and a blacksmith and more detailed capability that allows you to increase the power not just for yourself but for everybody in your village, and like then take it even further, RTS style or SimCity style. So
I love that.
we think that that's a really interesting place to explore that we've touched on with games like Minecraft. And some Roblox games kind of get in there, but nobody's like scratched that itch just yet. So we're
It's a
hoping
very human itch. It's like we customize our spaces. I know you can't see my room, but this is my office, the other side of, we customize our spaces to make them like inspiring, calming expressions of ourselves. And we are also a product of like what we are able to do at home and go out into the world. I love your take on that. That's really interesting. And I've also in at many points in my career either prototyped or started working on systems where players can create villages together and how that unlocks skills and power and things. And I think that's a really compelling thing that hasn't been cracked in a really compelling way. Like it's there a little bit in, I forget the name, Shopkeeper. It was a mobile game where you would be in a guild and everyone would basically pay, and you'd have this common city or village that would upgrade, and everyone gets benefits from that. And if you left your guild, you would take your contributions like to the other guild, and it would add on. But it was just like a pure like coin economy kind of piling up. But it was really compelling and very shallow. So I'm really excited to see this in more depth with what you're doing. I love that space.
Yeah, whenever you want to get back into games, just let me know. And if I have funding, we'll just like.
I'll say like
it took me a year. Are on point, I gotta say.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, I'm not job searching yet, but I have after this. It's been a year since my studio closed, and I've been making these films, and I'm thinking about like I'm doing the film for social good because I believe in it, but like is my long-term plan film or whatever? And I've like it's taken a year, but I'm starting to feel the bruising like recede. I'm like, okay, I know I just needed time away from this intense thing, and so I am kind of starting to think about it. And the job market sucks, so it's nice that I have some time to think about it, but we should chat. I might be able to help you out a little bit.
That would be amazing. And like your thinking literally is in line and aligned with what we think is really interesting and I think appeals to modern audiences in an even more interesting way because, we have UGC, and UGC can drive players and create an opportunity for players to express themselves. But then, like, you need to have a point. And it's one of the reasons why I think actually Palia didn't succeed, is that Palia had a lot of these features built into the game, but there was no drive, like motivating factor that pushed the content forward or pushed the drive of the player to work together with other players. It was more just like a dollhouse simulator. And that only has so much retention value, because like there needs to be a there that keeps you coming back the next day to try to get to the next level of upgrade, to the next level of thing. And WoW captured that really well, so well that it's lasted 20 damn years.
It's amazing. Yeah, I played it in the first 3 months, and it's still going. I completely agree with you. This is something I think about a lot, progression systems. Like, I love narrative and atmospheric games, but the progression and systems are what really keep you coming back. And like when I talk about Belatra, I'm like, yeah, I've beaten it, but there's always one more thing. There's like, well, I could beat it on the next stake, and I could unlock the next deck, and I could unlock the next Joker. And it does. One thing that I find I'd love to see what you guys are doing with your game is how we deliver that experience of constantly having those like nice moments of reward, rather than it just becoming like a longer and longer stretched out grind that becomes more of a compulsion than fun. And that's where I usually end up putting down, especially mobile games, when it goes from being like a fun thing to becoming a job where I'm like, I need to log in today because I'll miss my currency if I don't. But the time between
quest or log and roll.
Yeah, and it becomes rote, and the real rewards really taper off after the beginning. And I know that doesn't have to be that way, and there are obviously games that don't fall into that trap. But I'm really excited to hear what you guys are doing.
Yeah, like WoW solved that problem by creating these really cool dungeons where you could gear up, but that gear was not necessarily for that particular dungeon. It was for that next encounter that you wanted to get to, or the next like the giant guild raid that you were going to hit later on that week, and you needed the potions from Karazhan, and like, you know, a specific item, and there would be scarcity too. You'd only get one of an item per person, so you'd have like the replayability of making sure that you wanted everybody to get equipped, and you'd also just look forward to the fun and dynamic encounters that you'd have in that multi-class gameplay. I don't know. I sat for months in Lower Guk and EverQuest to get a black silk sash, so that I could the flowing black silk sash, just so that I could, you know, hit with faster with my monk. And scarcity is not a bad problem, or making things hard is not a problem. And we've kind of lost track of that with games. We've made things super easy. And we've wanting to give everybody access to the rewards, but then the game itself ends up feeling vapid, and there's no satisfaction from the game experience. But there's a way to balance the grind and satisfaction when people think, and some of the pushback that we've gotten is that they believe it's zero sum. Like you have that gamers want things handed to them, and that gamers don't have patience because they just want short gameplay cycles. And I'm like, nah, like Haven, my 12-year-old daughter plays this with her friends during sleepovers, and they will play all weekend long. There's only 15 minutes of gameplay really. And they found a way to make this replayable, and they just run around and like get into trouble and go on adventures. And like, this is a 0.1% of the content that we want to create.
I think, what you said about, I think World of Warcraft definitely is a masterclass in the game design challenge that's like daisy chaining things together. And I can think of other examples. Like there was a game called Summoner's War, is one of the earlier like CCGs, it's a free-to-play mobile game. You collect different characters in different classes, and they did a brilliant job of like, you want to do that thing, then you need to beat this encounter, and to beat this encounter, you need to have this set composition of team. And so you had places where every different character you had on your team was useful in that context to get this other thing. And the daisy chaining was super compelling. And so I definitely believe in that, where there's a meaning to everything that you're doing. You know why you're harvesting all the wood, or you know why you're doing this other dungeon to get there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, World of Warcraft is a masterclass on that.
Yeah, we kind of have an example of that here, like this arcane mill. I couldn't build it without going out to Adventureland because that's where I could get my cotton fiber. And so we've, like the big compelling thing about RPGs, I think, is actually a pretty basic concept, which I call Easter eggs, because Easter.
Sorry, it cut out right when you said
Sorry,
that. It's
I call them like Easter egg hunts. Like
oh yeah,
we or a scavenger hunt. Like that gameplay mode is what makes RPGs, like all of the Elder Scrolls games, anything out of Bethesda is a massive Easter egg hunt within a specific theme, with some combat interspersed there. But also, like, you can't have combat all the time and high energy activity. You need white space because players aren't going to communicate if their keys are always on their hotkeys or their hands are always on their hotkeys. They need to have time and space to be able to type to people and communicate. So, like, there's a fine balancing act.
yeah.
And I think, we've gotten feedback around our game is that it, feels boring because they're expecting to be wowed with like notifications and where's our quest log, like all these things to do. But like, no, that's actually the opposite of what I think players are actually looking for. Is we want like the space to socialize. We want a third space that's a playground that we can choose to go on the swings or just hang out at the bottom of the slide and goof off.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the hardest things about game development is that to make a really amazing game, you have to know what it is. You got to have your vision, like you said, and you have to know what's important to that game. There's no like cookie cutter copy of things that work there will automatically apply. But it's also that to have an amazing game, you need things firing on all cylinders, and you're not able to build all cylinders from the beginning. So it's like, how do you play test it? How do you share your vision? How do you know you're building the right thing even though this isn't there yet? And that's just why games are so hard. They're expensive and they're hard. And I definitely believe in what you're doing with open play testing. And it just it's when people look at a game, they're like, why did they make this choice or whatever? And it's like, you can go back to the 4,000 choices that and limitations or benchmarks or posts that they had to navigate around and thread that needle. And I think that's why a lot of us are like addicted to it, but also why it's so hard. And that's one of the things I actually try to touch on in one of my films is about just like, sometimes like gamers will have like their conspiracy theory for why this one thing was done. And you're like, no, actually it was something much more mundane and hilarious than that. Like that happened because XYZ happened. And it's like, there was no master plan, like conspiracy. This is just what happened. Like, well, I love that.
The great example of that is, what happened to the MMO industry in general is everyone tried to copy WoW at the superficial level without understanding the reasoning behind why things worked, and thought that they were optimizing for the right thing. EverQuest actually did this, and WoW actually copied EverQuest of adding the looking for group tool. It was a dungeon finder in EverQuest, and then looking for group tool in WoW. And, we shortened the distance between players and created interfaces to find people. But what that ended up doing was it killed the social game. It killed interaction. It killed community building. And so now you can't make friends in these games because everybody's just running from one place to the next and using an interface to get to where they want. When what you need is players like overland and overlapping in the same time and space, and then letting them be bored. Because if you don't have a reason to talk to another player, there's no reason to ever do so. We've actually got a comment from Chris as well, about finding their core identity. Yes, and this kind of is a great kind of exclamation point on the point I just made, is social gameplay comes when you don't overwhelm the player with the actual gameplay. The gameplay there is a complement to the experience. Whereas I don't know, the way I used to describe EQ was that it was a very beautiful chat room.
Yeah.
But you need a reason to chat in the first place. It's kind of like we've been doing today. And like, I can talk to you all day about this.
I know. My brain makes lots of wide connections, but I was thinking about my own experience with social media. I'm not a like very prolific social media person. I've posted more since I've been working on films, and I've noticed that, of course, like being genuine about just like talking about how you feel, like it resonates. But also, I've noticed that when I ask for help, like I'm like one time I was like, I need to chat with someone who is a community manager on a cozy game, like because I have some questions about how this really works. When you ask for help, people are just so generous, and I try to be the same as well. Like people will jump in, answer, get on a call with you, and I think that is a similar human instinct that you're talking about in the game, where it's like helping the group and working with people is a very powerful internal motivator to us,
Mhm.
that we are like, oh, I've had so many experiences on MMOs where a higher level player will take me through a dungeon to help me. And, we're chatting along the way, and there's no like gameplay benefit to them for doing this, and people love that. So I think, yeah, tapping into that sort of spirit is really powerful.
Yeah, and that's like literally the reason for Haven, and I think why we're also driven to make it is because we want to create that safe social space where you go there to hang out, and then you find the adventure while hanging out, not the adventure then like keeps you drawn in.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sorry you couldn't actually play, but
Yeah,
hashtag
I'm sorry too. Yeah, that's game dev.
but we will
That's what
solve
it
this
is. It all
problem.
works until you show someone.
Right. And we
Yeah.
like literally we tested it ahead of time, and we ran into a
No,
similar
sorry.
issue, and we got it all resolved. So but check out these comments, like the
I
trading
will.
tunnel in East Commons, like that's from EverQuest, or Baron's chat was the place to be, like
Mhm.
legit, like hanging out in Stormwind and
Yep.
goofing off and just dance emoting.
I have such good memories. And Chris saying he met his wife in WoW. When I started playing WoW 20 years ago, I was a couple of years out of college, and some of my good friends had moved to LA, and they were playing WoW before I was. And this was like obviously before we would get on Zoom and hang out. And
Mhm.
I remember joining WoW and like joining his guild, and we would literally just hang out in like Stormwind and chat, and it was a total hangout. It was so fun. And there's also if anyone hasn't seen the documentary, I think it's The Remarkable Life of Evelyn. I'm sure you've seen it, Irena.
Oh
It's
God, it's a heart wrencher, heart
yeah.
wrencher.
And
That
I'd heard
actually, yes, the Remarkable Life of Evelyn is about a disabled player, a kid with cerebral palsy, who played WoW and found himself in WoW, and that's actually a big motivator, because I don't know if you know this about my backstory, but my son, when he was a year old, had a stroke and
oh my gosh.
became fully right-sided hemiplegic and paralyzed. We went through a lot of physical therapy, and both on site in a clinic, and then later on through his years to recover. And he's mostly functional now. But I also have a great friend of mine. One of my oldest friends has a daughter who has cerebral palsy, and she's in a wheelchair. She will never walk. She will never fully talk, but she communicates through an iPad. And she's not mentally affected. She's
Yeah.
actually she's the number one student in her middle school, and yet she's movement limited and communication limited. But games like WoW created a space for people to actually have a social life and
Hmm.
engage when they were homebound. Like, it's the
Hmm.
ultimate of accessibility. And so one of the things that we're actually announcing, I have to talk to Dean Takahashi and I'm like, this is on my to-do list, but we're announcing a partnership with somebody who came on our stream a few months back, an API called Cephable, which allows you to play our video game with your voice or with gestures or head movements, because it
Amazing.
makes our software more accessible for those that are movement limited and disabled. Like, that is such an important thing for us, because the games allow people to make friends in a way, and like you
Yeah.
don't have that initial like physical judgment of another person, seeing them in a
Yep.
wheelchair and then being turned off by it. Like, they're just running
Yeah.
around just like you.
Yep. you just connect with the person.
Mm-hmm.
That film is amazing at that. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's incredible because he had this whole extremely rich and meaningful social community where he was, I mean, he helped other people with their by talking with them and talking, it was just incredible. His parents didn't find out until afterward, and he had this incredibly rich life online. And I think that's an incredible thing for all of us. Like we can sort of connect as humans first, and our looks maybe never, like not involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So if there's anything that we can leave our viewers with is that games don't necessarily have to be all about the game. It's about creating space for human connectivity, because games give us the opportunity to meet people that we wouldn't otherwise, through space and time, and that we might judge or limit ourselves from engaging with because we just happen to take down a boss together.
Yeah.
And it can bond us just as well as, growing up with them or, going to homecoming with them. It's a powerful, powerful connection tool. And I hope the game industry continues or gets back to its roots of doubling down on that particular factor, because we won't stop. That's, what we find is important, the most important.
Completely agree.
Thank you so much. Next time we're going to do a redo. I'm putting
Okay.
you back on the guest list, and we're going to solve this problem so that we can do this again, and we can have another amazing conversation about games.
Awesome.
Because you've been awesome and an awesome
Yeah,
guest.
so fun. Thanks for having me.
And thanks
It's
for
really
your
nice to watch the
advocacy.
chat too. Oh, of course. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not pushing the boulder up the hill by myself. There are so many people who it's so important to. So I think we're gonna do some impactful things.
Yeah, let's go change the world.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you can catch us next Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We got some feedback that they really liked the longer session this time around. We're at like 2 hours. We've never
I know.
had to stream this long, but I'm
into it.
Not going to lie. I kind of love it. And I love the fact that we got a chance to chat.
Me too.
And please consider joining our Patreon. We could really use the support, and or even better, buy a t-shirt. Catch you all next week and have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Hit that button and buy a t-shirt with a dragon on it, and that will help us keep making some awesome games. Looks like this. I've already seen a Unleashed t-shirt out in the wild that I wasn't wearing, and I'm super excited about seeing more of them. So yeah, buy a t-shirt.